Very good evening, students. Now, this question reads like, describe the cervical part of the sympathetic trunk. The sympathetic trunk is the ganglionic chain, okay, which bears many ganglion on the side. So there are so many ganglia which are present on the sympathetic trunk, which is also sometimes known as sympathetic chain. And these sympathetic trunk, they run on the side of the vertebral bodies, okay. So they run on the transverse process actually of the most of the vertebral bodies, okay, on either side of the vertebral column, right from the base of the skull up to the sacrum, so lower end of the sacrum or in front of the coccyx, where these two trunks they meet each other, okay, and that is called as ganglion impar. But here we are going to learn about this sympathetic trunk only in the cervical region, okay, because since we are dealing with the head and neck chapters, so we will describe the cervical part of the sympathetic trunk. Now, in the answer, you may write like this: the cervical part of the sympathetic trunk lies deep in the neck. So, it is located deep inside the neck, as I said, just in front of the vertebral column, okay, on either side of the vertebral bodies. Now, it extends from the base of the skull, okay, so it begins near the base of the skull, and the cervical part of sympathetic trunk goes right up to the neck of the first rib, okay, and this neck of the first rib is located at the root of the neck. So at the root of the neck, it enters the thoracic cavity, okay, from in front of the root of the neck, then it enters in the thoracic cavity and continues as the thoracic sympathetic trunk. So it continues from the neck into the thorax as thoracic sympathetic chain or sympathetic trunk. Okay, we will now remain confined to the cervical region only. In the neck, okay, it runs vertically, that is, I said that it runs from the base of the skull and then goes right up to the root of the neck, which is, and then it lies in front of the first rib, okay, in front of the neck of the rib, okay, first ribs. Now, it is related anteriorly, that means its anterior relation of the sympathetic trunk in neck. It is related anteriorly to the prevertebral fascia. We have seen that cervical fascia has three layers. Deepest is the prevertebral fascia, pretracheal fascia, and the general investing layer of the deep fascia. So this is the third prevertebral fascia, and the chain or this sympathetic trunk lies deep to this prevertebral fascia and also deep to that of the carotid sheath, and carotid sheath encloses the internal carotid artery in the upper part as well as the internal jugular vein, along with the vagus nerve in between the two posteriorly. So, and these three structures are covered by the carotid sheath. So, this sympathetic trunk lies on the posterior aspect of this sympathetic chain. Now, the cervical part of the sympathetic trunk has three ganglia. Okay, what are the ganglia? These are the swellings in the trunk, sympathetic trunk, and ganglia means the collection of the neurons or nerve cells, okay, outside the central nervous system. And this is the ganglia. Wherever there is a swelling in the sympathetic trunk, it is a ganglia where there are collection of the neurons. And these neurons are the postganglionic neurons, as we will learn later. This is the collection of the postganglionic neurons, because the preganglionic neurons of sympathetic trunk, okay, they are located within the spinal cord. They are located between the thoracic one segment of the spinal cord till the lumbar second segment of the spinal cord, okay. So there are at least 14 spinal segments. T1 to L2 will contain the preganglionic neurons. But these neurons which are located in the ganglions of the sympathetic chain, they are the postganglionic neurons. Okay. Now, as I said that the cervical part of the sympathetic trunk has three ganglia. Which are these ganglia? The superior cervical ganglion. The singular is ganglion and plural is ganglia. So, there is one ganglia which is the largest, and this is the superior cervical ganglion, which is at the base of the skull, in front of the transverse process of the cervical 2 and 3rd vertebra. Then there is a middle cervical ganglia, and then there is lastly the inferior cervical ganglia. So there are only three ganglia in the cervical part of the sympathetic trunk. But as we go into the thoracic and lumbar part of the sympathetic chain, there is usually one ganglion for each part of the spinal cord. That means each segment of the spinal cord. But here in the cervical region there are only three. Why they are only three? Why not the one ganglion for that of the each segment of the spinal cord? Okay, or for vertebral segment. Now the reason is that this ganglion in the cervical region, they have fused. Okay, they were there 8, but then they have fused to form the three ganglion, as we will see. Okay, as we will see. Let us see the first ganglion, the superior cervical ganglion, and I will show you in this diagram the superior cervical ganglion. Now this is a very simple and easy diagram for the sympathetic trunk. Now this is superior cervical ganglion, then this is the middle cervical ganglion, and this is the inferior cervical ganglion in the trunk. Okay, the trunk is running from base of the skull towards the thoracic cavity. So within this cervical region, these are the three swelling in this trunk, which are the superior, middle and inferior cervical ganglia. Okay. Now these ganglia, let us come to the superior cervical ganglia. Now this superior cervical ganglia is, we will see, as we will see, this is a largest ganglion. Okay, as we have seen, this will be the largest ganglion, and this largest ganglion, superior cervical ganglion, is located in front of, as I said, in front of the transverse process of the C2 and that of the C3 cervical vertebrae. So, and the size of this ganglion is about 3 centimeter in length. See this fusiform septs ganglion, about 3 centimeter in length, located in front of the C2 and C3 vertebra. Okay, I mean to say transverse process, not to the body. Okay, so in at the level of, you can say that C2 and C3 vertebra. Now this actually represent the 4 fused ganglia, the 4 fused ganglias, and these ganglias are one at the level, I mean say, which are the 4 fused ganglions? They are C1, C2, C3 and C4. Thus the 4 ganglion which were originally in the sympathetic chain, they have fused to form a single ganglion. They have fused. So it is the fused C1 to C4 ganglion. Okay. Now from the upper end of this ganglion, okay, there emerges a thick nerve, and this nerve is called as the internal carotid nerve. Let us see here. Yes. This nerve which is here, it is called as the internal carotid nerve. Okay, I have written here internal carotid nerve. So this nerve, from its upper pole of the ganglion coming out is the, and soon it will form a plexus around the internal carotid artery, which is going inside the carotid canal and then will come out to form the in the cavernous sinus. So a sympathetic nerve fibers which will form the plexus here, it is surrounded by this plexus, okay, which originates from the internal carotid nerve. Okay, let us come to the middle cervical ganglion, which is the small. Okay, this is the middle, and it is formed by the fusion of C5 and C6 ganglion. So two ganglion, they have fused to form the middle cervical ganglia. Okay, now this middle cervical ganglion, it is present in front of the transverse process of C6 vertebra. Okay, in front of transverse process of C, and it, as I said, it represents the two fused ganglia C5 and C6 into one. Let us come to the inferior ganglion. Now this inferior cervical ganglion is situated in front of the transverse process of C7 vertebra and that of the neck of the first rib. As we have said in the introduction that it lies in front of the neck of the first rib and then it becomes thoracic trunk. Okay, so it lies in front of the first rib, and this represents the fused part of C7 and C8 ganglia. C7 and C8 ganglia. But sometime if the thoracic 1 ganglion, which is in the thorax, may also fuse with this inferior cervical ganglia. Okay, inferior. So then in that case it will represent the 3 fused cervical ganglia. Now once the T1 is also here, okay, fused with that of the inferior cervical ganglia, then this ganglion is known as stellate ganglion or cervicothoracic ganglion. Only condition is that then it should also, that means T1 cervical ganglion should also fuse with this inferior cervical ganglion, okay, with the inferior. Then only it will be called as the stellate or the cervicothoracic ganglion. Since here it is the T1 has also fused here, this inferior cervical ganglion should be called as the cervicothoracic ganglion. Cervico, not only the inferior cervi, it is the cervicothoracic ganglion is there. Okay, so you have learned the extent of the sympathetic trunk, okay, from the base of the skull to that of the neck of the first rib, okay, where it will continue as that of the thoracic trunk, okay, sympathetic trunk. There are 3 ganglion. Now these 3 ganglion, they will send the branches, okay, they will send the branches, okay, from this. Lot many branches will come out from each cervical ganglion, superior, middle and inferior, okay. But I think I should show you some diagram from a book so that you will get some idea about this ganglion, how the fibers from this ganglion they go out and from where, and those fibers which go out from this ganglion, these are the post-ganglionic fiber. That means whatsoever hundreds and thousands of the neurons which are situated in this ganglion, they sends their axons as the post-ganglionic fibers, okay. That means the axon of those neurons which are located, first they will synapse with the axon of the preganglionic neurons which are located in the spinal cord, and then they will send it here, okay. In a very short way, you can see this spinal cord cross section, and this is from T1 level to L2, where the preganglionic neurons are located in the lateral horn of the spinal cord, gray matter it is, and this are the sympathetic neurons, and this small sympathetic neurons, they send their axon, okay, through the ventral root of the spinal nerve, okay, ventral root from T1 to L2. There is in the cervical part of the spinal cord, these sympathetic ganglions are not there. They are only located right from T1 to L2 segment of the spinal cord. So they will send the preganglionic fibers or axons. See this axon arising from these sympathetic neurons, and then they run with the root, ventral root, then trunk, and then they live and go to the sympathetic trunk, which is located by the side of the vertebral column here, and then this will relay at each vertebral level this fibers, preganglionic fibers, for the case of the sympathetic chain in the neck, it will ascend up right up to the superior cervical ganglion, but in thoracic region, almost at each level, they will relay here in the postganglionic neuron. This gray dot which I have drawn, they are the postganglionic sympathetic neuron, and this preganglionic will come and end into this postganglionic neuron, and then with the dotted line I have shown that the axons of this postganglionic sympathetic neuron will arise, and then they will supply the various structures. Okay, so this is preganglionic neuron. From sympathetic chain it becomes the postganglionic sympathetic neuron, because this is the second set of the neuron which is located. Now let us see in this diagram also, which may show you a much more clear picture. So this is the lateral horn of the gray matter from T1 to L2 spinal segment. Preganglionic neuron is located, which is sending the preganglionic axon here, which this is the sympathetic chain or the trunk, and in which one ganglion I have shown. This will terminate or synapse with the postganglionic neuron, sympathetic neuron in the ganglia, and then the postganglionic fibers will go along with the ventral or dorsal rami of the spinal nerve and will supply the structure, sympathetic innervation to that structure. This is almost at each level from T1, okay, to L2. But then sometime this fibers will not relay here only, okay, at that level from where it is coming. The fibers may ascend up, the fibers as it is in this case. See, the fibers, they are ascending as in case of the cervical, okay, because in the cervical area the trunk is there, but spinal cord is not giving any preganglionic. It is only in the thoracic region that. So from thoracic region they will ascend up and will relay at different level of the cervical sympathetic chain. In the similar way, in the lumbar region below L2 they will go down and relay in this different sympathetic neuron. Okay, this is in very short, okay, about how the preganglionic and postganglionic sympathetic neurons, they behave in the sympathetic chain. Now that part of the preganglionic fibers which will connect from the spinal ventral ramus to that of the ganglion, okay, this is called as the white rami communicans. And why it is? Because they are myelinated preganglionic sympathetic fibers. But after the postganglionic axon which comes out from this sympathetic ganglion, they are non-myelinated, and that's why they are called as the gray rami communicants. Okay, so these postganglionic fibers are non-myelinated and they are the gray rami communicants, right? I hope that you have got a fair good idea about these sympathetic chain neurons and how they receive the preganglionic axon, and then it relays here, and then postganglionic fibers which are gray rami, they will arise. Okay, I will try to show you some of the diagrams from this general anatomy book, okay, authored by me and published by the PP Publications, and I am thankful to the PP Publication for using these diagrams. Okay, now see here, this is another diagram which will show you how the pre and post ganglionic. See, again, this is the lateral horn of the spinal cord from T1 to L2 level. This is a sympathetic neuron which is giving a axon which runs in the ventral root of the spinal nerve, and then from ventral root it comes to the sympathetic trunk here. Okay, one of the ganglia of the sympathetic ganglion of one of the sympathetic trunk is shown here, and then this is the white rami communicans because it is a preganglionic fibers which is covered by the myelin sheath, and then it will relay here in the postganglionic sympathetic neuron whose axon is non-myelinated axon. So this dotted line indicate the postganglionic axon of the neurons which is the gray rami communicans. So this connection between the sympathetic chain to the ventral ramus or root of this spinal nerve is called as the gray rami, and this is called as the white ramus. And then these fibers will go to the smooth muscle, they may go to the smooth muscle of the viscerals, okay, and then it may go to the glands for the secretion, and it may go to the heart. So three are different areas which are supplied by these sympathetic postganglionic fibers. Okay, let me see here this. Let us see this diagram which will give you another idea about sympathetic trunk. See, this is the sympathetic trunk which is shown only up to the lumbar region. Okay, it will go still below up to the sacral region, okay, or coccygeal vertebrae. Now this part, superior, middle and inferior cervical sympathetic chain is here. This is from T1 to L2, where the preganglionic neurons are located in the spinal cord, and this preganglionic shown in the green color will come and end at the appropriate level here. Say for example it is T2 spinal segment, then this will just go into the T2 spinal sympathetic ganglion here, and then where it will rely on postganglionic fibers, and in this diagram the red lines which are coming, they are the postganglionic sympathetic fibers, okay, taking origin from the neurons located in this sympathetic ganglion, and then these fibers from various segment will go to the various organ. Say for example here it is superior cervical ganglion which will send the postganglionic fiber, and these fibers are coming from T2, T1, T3, and they are ascending up for the different level of cervical sympathetic chain, and then this postganglionic fiber will go to the head and neck region. This may go up to the T4, it may go to the heart, okay, then from T1 to T4 it may go to the lung, and that other visceras are innervated but with some differences which I am not going to tell you here. Okay, it is complicating the whole video, okay. You may not get confused, that's why I will not tell the much detail, but you should learn this autonomic nervous system, which is not very easy, with the help of a simple book, okay, simple book which will tell you the basic aspect of the sympathetic preganglionic and postganglionic distribution. Okay, so we were on the branches, so I will come now on to the branches of this branches of the ganglias, okay, various ganglion. We will see the branches arising from the superior cervical ganglion, then we will see the branches arising from the inferior cervical ganglion. Let us see, this is superior cervical ganglion, okay, and let us see what are the branches which are arising from this superior cervical ganglia. Now after relaying the fibers which will arise from this ganglia, they are the postganglionic fibers, gray rami. So these are the gray rami communicances or postganglionic fibers which have taken origin from the neurons located in superior cervical ganglia, postganglionic neurons, okay. And they will send through their axon the branches to the ventral rami of the spinal nerve. So they will go along with the ventral rami of the spinal nerve. Let me tell you what is the ventral rami and how the fibers will go. See here, this is the preganglionic, then postganglionic in sympathetic chain, and then this is the ventral rami through which the sympathetic fiber will also be distributed. Let us see here without any complication. This is the ventral root, dorsal root, trunk, and then this is the ventral ramus and dorsal. So from thoracic region this fiber will come here and will be distributing to the various structure of the body through this ventral rami. So now you have understood what is a ventral rami is, okay. So from C1, C2, C3 and C4 this will be going to this 4 spinal segment ventral rami and will be distributed in the neck region, head and neck region especially, okay. So this is the first set of the branches which are the gray rami communicants to the spinal nerve. Here I have written the gray rami. See this gray rami communicants to this spinal nerve, upper 4 spinal cervical nerve. Then this will send a branch, sympathetic fibers to the postganglionic sympathetic fibers to the cardiac branch. This is called as cardiac branch because this branch will go from the base of the skull to the heart in the thoracic region. So this is a long cardiac branch which will go to the heart. Then there is a branch which will arise, sympathetic fibers branch from superior cervical ganglion, and they will form a pharyngeal plexus. And we have learned that the vagus nerve, the glossopharyngeal nerve, and accessory nerve, they also contribute in formation of the pharyngeal plexus, and these are the sympathetic component of that plexus supplied by the superior cervical ganglion, from which one of the branch will go to the carotid body, and from cervical ganglion superior one of the branch will directly come to the carotid sinus. Okay, so carotid body and carotid sinus, they will be supplied, and then these sympathetic fibers will also form a plexus on the surface of the external and internal carotid artery. Okay, external and internal. So these fibers will be going to the various structures on the surface of the, that means they will use this artery as the vehicle through which these fibers will reach to the different structures. Okay, remember that the sympathetic fibers, they get a very easy route or vehicle through which they can reach to the target organ by making a plexus, because these nerves are very delicate, and thus they form a plexus, and along with the artery and then its branches, it goes to the various visceras. Okay, target organ. Okay, so this sends fibers to form sympathetic plexus on internal and external carotid arteries. Now there are some fibers which will arise from the superior cervical ganglion and will have a communication with the 9th, 10th and the 11th cranial nerve. So the component of the sympathetic fibers in this nerve will be given by this superior cervical ganglion. Okay, this superior cervical ganglion. Let us come to the branches of the middle cervical ganglion. See this middle cervical, which was located in front of the transverse process of the 6 cervical vertebrae. Now this will say in a similar way will send the gray rami communicants to that of the C5 and C6 ventral ramus of the spinal nerve, and will be distributing the fibers along with this nerve. Right? Then this will also give a cardiac branch, which is similar to the cardiac branch arising from superior cervical. These are the sympathetic fibers going to supply the heart in the thorax. Okay. Okay, then the third branch which will arise from the middle cervical ganglion, that it will send the fibers, okay, by making a sympathetic plexus on the inferior thyroid artery. See, this is the subclavian artery, which is giving one branch called as the vertebral artery. From here, from second part will come the thyrocervical trunk, and this will also carry the fibers, okay, of sympathetic fibers on the inferior thyroid artery, which arise from that of the middle cervical ganglion, not shown in this diagram. Okay, but remember that the inferior thyroid artery also carries a sympathetic plexus on its surface, which is going to the thyroid gland. Okay, so this is an plexus on the inferior thyroid artery. Then you can see that one of the branch from middle cervical ganglion is arising. Then it lies in the on the surface of the subclavian artery, and then it forms a loop, winds round, and then these fibers, they go and end into the inferior cervical ganglion. So there is a loop. That loop is called as ansa, and since this loop is around that of the subclavian artery here, this is, see, the subclavian artery is here, that's why this loop is called as the ansa subclavia. It is called as ansa subclavia, this route, okay, this loop, ansa subclavia. Now ansa subclavia will send fibers on the surface of the subclavian artery, okay, and then form a plexus, and then from this subclavian plexus, the plexus will also ascend on the vertebral artery, okay, vertebral artery, which goes to the, I mean to say, cranial cavity to form the circle of Willis after forming the artery, basilar artery, okay, basilar artery. Now, so this loop, as I said, gives a communicating twig also to that of the subclavian artery to form a plexus, but at the same time a small fibers or a communicating twig will communicate with the phrenic nerve, which is going close to the subclavian, on the surface of the subclavian artery. That that phrenic nerve will also carry these sympathetic fibers along with it. Now let us come to the branches. From that of the inferior cervical ganglion or the cervicothoracic ganglion. In case if T1 is a ganglion, it has also fused with C7 and C8 ganglion. So the communication, the branches are the gray rami communicances to that of the, just similar to that of the superior and middle to C7 and C8 spinal nerve, ventral spinal nerve it is there, okay, C7 and C8. Now this will send also, if it is a stellate or the cervicothoracic ganglion, then it will also send a tweak to the T1, okay, it will T1. Then a branch will also arise from this inferior cervical ganglion, which is the cardiac branch going to the heart. That means all the three ganglion of the cervical trunk, superior, middle and inferior ganglion, they will send the cardiac branch to the heart to supply to the heart. Then it will also send fibers to form a plexus on the vertebral artery and the subclavian artery also, okay. One of the tick was given by Ansa subclavia for the formation of the plexus, okay, especially also on the inferior thyroid artery. But this ganglion inferior will also send its plexus onto the artery. So everywhere we have seen that whenever it has come in contact with the artery, say in the internal carotid artery as it lies in the carotid canal or into the cavernous sinus, there is a plexus. Then there is a plexus on internal and external carotid at its bifurcation. Then there is a plexus on the inferior thyroid artery, on the vertebral artery, on the subclavian artery. As I said that this is the easiest way by which the sympathetic nerves, which are very delicate, they are distributed to their destination, okay, where they supply going on the surface of the blood vessels, okay, that is arteries. Let us come to the applied importance of this, okay. And in applied importance, there is one important applied importance called as the Horner syndrome, okay. I must have written here, yes, this is the, where is that, yes, this is the applied anatomy or the Horner syndrome. And why there is a Horner syndrome? The Horner syndrome is because, okay, due to the injury to the cervical sympathetic trunk above the level of T1, okay. So all the fibers in the sympathetic chain were going from the level of T1. See, this is the T1 part of the spinal cord, okay, and from here only the fibers, they have started going inside the sympathetic chain. So if the sympathetic trunk or this chain is cut here just at the level, above the level of the T1, that means none of the fibers are going into the sympathetic chain, okay, cervical sympathetic chain, superior, middle and inferior ganglion, where the postganglionic neurons will not get the fibers, preganglionic fibers to synapse. So there will be no innervation, okay, from these three cervical. We have seen a lot of branches which are going, okay, those will not be there if it is cut here at the level of T1, okay. So no communication or no branches will be going into these three ganglion, and this will form the Horner syndrome, okay. This cutting of the sympathetic chain, okay, at this level of T1 will result in the interruption of sympathetic nerve supply to the head and neck, because most of the fibers from this superior cervical ganglia along with these blood vessels plexus, it was going to that of the head and neck region, okay. So this will not be sympathetic supply to the head and neck will be thus interrupted, okay, interrupted. Following are the clinical features, okay. Let me tell you, the following are the clinical features here which are due to the Horner syndrome, cutting of the sympathetic trunk above the level of T1. First one is the constriction of the pupil. Okay, pupil, why pupil will be constricted? And this is due to the unopposed action of parasympathetic supply. Since parasympathetic supply will is there in the iris, so that will become overactive in absence of that of the sympathetic. Because what is the function of sympathetic? It dilates the pupils. So in absence of sympathetic, naturally the parasympathetic, which is the constrictor of pupillae, will become overactive and the pupil will be constricted. Okay, so the patient will come with the constricted pupil on the side of the Horner syndrome, okay, on the side, okay, where the sympathetic trunk is cut on that side. Cut means injured, okay, or with any disease it is fibers are interrupted, okay. Then there will be partial ptosis. Partial ptosis means what? It means that there will be drooping of the upper eyelid, and this is due to the paralysis of the smooth muscle of upper eyelid, orbitalis. Okay, this levator palpebral superioris muscle is there which elevates, but that muscle is the skeletal muscle. On its under surface there are few fibers which are smooth in nature and supplied by sympathetic fibers, but then sympathetic fibers are not coming here, so that these sympathetic fibers will not elevate the lid upward, so all the time there will be drooping. Of course the patient will be able to lift the upper eyelid because the levator palpebral superioris, which is supplied by the third cranial nerve, that is oculomotor, is still intact, but because of the paralysis of sympathetic fibers, smooth muscle paralysis will lead to the partial drooping of the eyelid all the time. Okay, then the third component of this Horner syndrome is anhidrosis. What is anhidrosis? Okay, that means loss of the sweating on that half of the face, okay, on that side half of the face. So there will be no sweating. The other half of the face will show the sweating. Okay, anhidrosis is due to the interruption again of the sympathetic innervation to the sweat gland. Okay, the sweat glands are now not supplied by the sympathetic, whose stimulation lead to the sweating. Okay, so on that half of the face will remain dry without any sweat. And lastly, an ophthalmos. What does it mean? It means that the eyeball retraction will be there. That means it will appear as if the eyeballs have gone inside the socket, okay, or they are retracted. Socket means the orbital socket, orbital cavity. Partly it will be seems to be retracted due to the drooping of the upper eyelid also. This completes the cervical part of the sympathetic chain. I know that it is not that easy because okay, you have to learn first the autonomic nervous system and then only you will. I tried my best to make you understand this. Okay, branches which are taking origin from the superior, middle and inferior cervical sympathetic ganglion. Thank you very much for watching this video.